What did your parents blame you for which wasn't your fault? When I got sick with early onset Alzheimer's about 11 years ago, I was in a really difficult place, as my sibling had told the rest of my family about what was going on. I wasn't aware at the time of how, though my adopted father he had terminal asbestosis, the longest time frame that people survived this is 3 to 4 years. He was getting closer to the end. I didn't really know this at the time. My brother had chosen not to tell me as my doctors had made it clear that they didn't know how my brain would react to this news given the illness that I had. I still haven't, it's just more stable now. They didn't want any added stress. Anyhow, I got out of hospital after 6 months with a permanent mental, and to an extent, physical disability, at 46 years old with the knowledge that I have a family that can't accept that I have this, and that I will need support for the rest of my life. I was distraught, to put it into perspective, how much my family didn't want anything to do with me. The only time I hear from most of my relatives is a group text at Christmas, when my aunt had come from Scotland to spend time with the family for the Christmas after I came out of hospital. We knew that would probably be my adoptive father's last Christmas. We all went out. Everything seemed fine. My sister drove me home after dinner, with my adoptive mother in the back seat of the car. Next thing I know, my mom is going off at me about the fact that Dad was dying, and that it was all my fault, that I had made up my illness to get attention. I asked where she got that nugget of information from. My sister went bright red, as we both knew all this had really nothing to do with me. My dad had worked in an environment years ago, which unfortunately put him in a position where he would not only contract asbestosis that had stayed dormant, but set the disease off as he got older. The illness I have has an emotional component. Having parents that were heavy narcissists and gaslighters meant that much of my childhood was spent in survival mode, constantly on guard. Nobody seemed to notice, acknowledge, or care about it at the time. My adoptive parents made it clear, when I was about 9 years of age, when my adoption went through, that, quote, they didn't do emotions, that I would need to get over it, that they were going to provide the basics. The rest of it I would need to learn to live with, etc. So the emotional abuse always sat in the background. This came back to haunt them when we were in the car, when I turned to my adopted mother and said, "What about we don't do emotions in this family?" That shut her down quickly. And we spoke very little after that. Even after my father passed months later, she still wouldn't speak to me, and she still spreads her toxicity through our family many years later. I am still the target of her relentless witch hunt, to somehow blame me for my father's death. If you're going to have kids, bio or adopted, please, for the love of God, treat them with love, not like how my adoptive parents treated me.